Uh, I'll just give it one more minute before we start. Okay, I think we can get started. So, welcome everyone to today's online event for the Bioscience Entrepreneurship MSc at UCL. My name is Marcus Frutiger, as you can see below here, I hope. And what we will do today is give you a bit of an overview of what the course is about. And I will first show you a few slides, and then there will be some comments from our module leads. And then we will move on to a panel discussion with some of our alumni and current students. And after that, we will open up the floor to Q&A from you, from the attendees. Okay, so let me get started with some slides here. Presentation mode. Okay, so this is about the Bioscience Entrepreneurship MSc, which is a joint effort between the Institute of Ophthalmology, the School of Pharmacy, School of Management, and the Department for Population Health Sciences. As I said, in the first instance, I'm just going to give you an overview of what this course is about. And let me see if I can, oops, it's going too far. So the Bioscience Entrepreneurship MSc is aimed at students with ambitions to be active in the applied bioscience space. So these are students with a science background who may not see their future at the bench as in the laboratory, but more in the applied space where they are participating in the translation of the basic science into the applied clinical or commercial space. Type of student we're looking for, the self-driven, proactive learners with innovative minds, who with an ambition to be active as entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs in the future. Now, what is the course about? It's really aiming at this, what we call the applied bioscience space. And you can see here, let's see if I can get my pointer to work. You can see there's a number of components in this applied bioscience space. So this is, most people think first in the first instance, pharmaceutical companies, possibly biotech and the scientific tool support industry, therapeutics industry, the contract research organizations, clinical trials companies, digital and big data, diagnostics, but also the health space, and in the background, of course, supporting all that, the venture capital space. Now, the reason why we at the Institute of Ophthalmology or at the School of Pharmacy are involved with that is because we're actually quite active in that space, where we have a track record in translating basic science into clinical and commercial applications. So at the institute, there's a number of spin-out companies that have come out of the institute, but also we have pipelines where basic science insights are translated into clinical products. Now, why are we teaching this here in a bigger space? Because there is something that is common to all these processes. It doesn't matter whether you work on eyes or whether you work in cancer or other disease areas or other areas. In this applied bioscience space, there are common principles behind it. So there are unique properties about this sector, which are distinct from other commercial sectors. And that is what we're exploring in this course. That's what we're trying to upskill you in this course, to develop an understanding what are the processes and the principles behind the research in this and the translation in these sectors. Also, what are the regulatory limitations? They're unique. There's a unique regulatory environment. What are the unmet needs and what are the current approaches, and where are the future opportunities? So it aims to prepare the students for this space. And we put together, as I said, with the other departments, for some reason, let's see if I can move this forward. Here we go. A diet of different modules across these departments. So within the institute, we have in the first term, there's 4 modules, and you will hear more about them afterwards from the individual module leads. Then in the second term, there is a whole bunch of optional modules that are primarily based at the School of Management. And also some of you have options at the School of Pharmacy and the Institute of Clinical Trials and Methodology. And in the third term, we have a research project and a business case. And we'll go into that a little bit more. Now, to give you more of a overview, so where we are here in London, so the Institute of Ophthalmology is physically located actually in Clerkenwell, which is a little bit east from the main campus in UCL. School of Pharmacy is somewhere in between, and then the School of Management, they are partially at the Canary Wharf, which is further down here, but also they also have they also sit here in the main campus, and the Institute for Clinical Trials and Methodology is somewhere in between as well. So as you can see, as UCL is actually spread across the much of the inner part of London, so is actually our course. Now, studying at UCL, you will be in one of the top universities worldwide. You can see here some of the metrics, which I will not go into, but obviously we pride ourselves on our international connections and the wide diversity in our students and staff. With regards to entrepreneurship, there are numerous opportunities within UCL. UCL is very active in this area. We have many enrichment activities at the institute and at UCL. There are extracurricular courses on offer. There are hackathons are being organized. There's many student societies with entrepreneurial focus. Then we have this organization called UCL Innovation and Enterprise. They even have their own building, their own place where they are. Where they organize networking events, business startup workshop, boot camps, and so on. We have a UCL Translational Research Office and Therapeutic Innovation Networks within London, which is actually very active as a center for venture builders. There is a very high density of activities going on in this place. So when you come out of this course, what we hope you will leave with is that you have gained an understanding of the sector, of the scientific backgrounds, the structures, and the process and the regulation, and so on. And that you will have developed an entrepreneurial mindset and have learned to see entrepreneurial opportunities and gain the skills and know-how how to develop that. And also, obviously, that you walk away with much better contacts and networks than when you've entered, which we think will make you a stronger entrepreneur or entrepreneur in the future. So this is it from my presentation. So I just want to do very quickly run through it. Now we're just going to have a very brief overview from the individual module leads. So maybe Adam, if you could start with your module very quickly and just in a few sentences explain what your module is about.
Sure. So in the first semester, we have a module called Digital Opportunities. The point of that is to introduce you to many of the main terminologies and main entry points into the digital opportunities for science and health.
Virginia?
Hello, I'm Virginia Calder, and I lead the Research and Practice module, which is also in the first term. Whilst many of you will have spent the last few years as undergraduates reading scientific papers, at the master's level, I hope to teach you how to critically appraise those papers, how to write scientific abstracts, things that you will need going forward in a number of different career pathways. I also cover in my module clinical trial designs, the monitoring and regulatory bodies that are associated with clinical studies, very important information when you're developing drugs going forward, as well as experimental research, how to apply for animal licenses, for example. So the aim of the module is to give you further knowledge and skills at the master's level to be able to embark on your own research project. Thank you.
Al?
So we also have a module on startups, and the startup module has learning objectives that focus on questions such as what is a good commercialization opportunities and what is the right way to take a product forward. It's sometimes a startup, sometimes it's another way. What is required, what is intellectual property, and how does one protect intellectual property. And we will have a number of guest speakers that give us different perspectives, be it from the scientists who developed applications or a product, or from people who support commercialization of such opportunities, as well as of investors. And to do this, we have a range of guest speakers. So we have in every lecture, we have a different speaker, and they will try to explain you what they are looking for from the investor's perspective. So what's important before they actually want to spend any money, and what they expect to see, for example, in a business plan.
Okay, thank you, Carl. So the fourth module, Science of Disease, led by Phil Luther. Phil is, unfortunately, I think he's down with COVID, so he's sick. I will quickly explain that in place of him. So the Science of Disease module aims to equip you with an understanding what disease is and how we research disease and how we try to interfere with disease. This is quite broad concepts trying to make you understand the bigger picture of pathology, what actually is pathology, and how can we interfere with that. In particular, with a look at, with a view of emerging technologies, but also with a look at genetic influences and so on. So that's this particular module to give you a better grounding in the science behind this type of what aims ultimately clinical applications. I now move on to the last module in term 3. So we don't have any representatives here from the term 2 modules, but in term 3. that will be more or less entirely focused on a thesis, where you will be doing the research, which is literature research. So you don't do research at the bench or anything like that, into a particular topic, and then try and develop a particular idea out of there into a business case. So ultimately it's the presentation of a business case, which you will have to write up there's basically two parts to it. There's the business case and then the scientific background to it, which you have to write up in the form of a thesis and also present to a kind of a Dragon's Den type of panel who will, you have like 5 minutes to pitch it and then you have to defend it. So that's the final assessment. This you can do in different sectors, in different settings. So there is a spectrum. There are some students, they do that in the form of internships with companies, which they may choose themselves, or we may help help them finding certain companies, or they may be linked or within a setting of companies that are active here at the Institute or associated institute. Or they may do it almost entirely by themselves. So we've had students who just say, I have this particular idea, I want to do this, and this is my idea, and this is what I'm going forward. We have students who take it more from a type of analytics point of view, who want to assess a particular idea and develop a business plan and then make a kind of an assessment, is this idea going to fly or not? So these are the type of projects that are done at the very end, in the last term. Okay, so I hope that has given you a bit of an overview of what we are trying to achieve. But I think what's arguably more important is actually the voice from students who are in this course or have been in this course. So I'm very grateful to Philippos, Alex, and Josephine, who have volunteered to join us today. So Philippos and Alex are alumni from last year, and Josephine is actually a student from our current cohort. And actually just get here out of my, I need to get out of my presentation mode here. Just 1 sec. So, and I think I start with Josephine, as you are a current student. So you're now in the 2nd term. I believe quite busy, so I very much appreciate for you taking the time. And I just wanted to start off with a few questions to you. What actually initially attracted you to the course? Why did you come to this particular course? What was the reason why you decided to join? So you need to unmute yourself. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Josephine. So originally, this was not a course that many universities offer, obviously, and I think that I really liked the spin on healthcare. It wasn't just entrepreneurship. So with my strictly scientific background, I really wasn't introduced to any type of commercialization of the type of innovation that you're introduced to there. So I knew that a strictly entrepreneurship focused master's wouldn't really help me apply my previous knowledge. And then I think also that it's many different departments and all the optional modules as well was really attractive, obviously.
So Philippos, I saw you nodding there. So was that the same reason why you came into this course the year before?
Exactly. So my main thought was kind of similar to Josephine's. So before applying to this master's degree, I was looking for a master's degree to kind of actually implement the knowledge that I had from my previous degree. So I have an undergrad degree in biological sciences, and I wanted to kind of implement what I've learned from that from that degree. but in a way that it was close to the business aspect of biology, which this degree actually fitted my expectations, and it did meet my expectations if we look at it from this aspect. So I guess it was more of a way to kind of combine the biological sciences knowledge and the business side of biology. As I'm still interested in the sciences, I felt that because for a scientist, it's really good to have a business knowledge as well, and to actually find a way to commercialize your idea, or even if you've researching something in the lab, it's really good for you to know how to actually commercialize something that you might have found in the lab. Yeah, so it's similar to Josephine's.
Alex, and I just may say, so there is actually, we have a prize of £1,000 for the best thesis. And Alex actually won that last year. So congratulations to you again, Alex, for winning that. He had the best thesis and business case. So what made you join our course in the first place?
Thank you, Marcus. Similar reasons to Josephine and Philippos. It's important to have a baseline of knowledge in biological sciences, but without the ability to apply that to any component of business, it's relatively, it's not useless, but it's not as useful as it could be, unless you're planning to go into direct research. But then even if you are planning to go into direct research, as you know, Philippos is now doing a master's of research, it's still extremely useful to have the skill set to think about your research or your product critically, break it down. It's not just commercialization, but it's understanding who your target market could be, the ups and the downs of different methods of funding. Should you go to a VC? Should you go to a family office? Should you go to a large pharma? All of these different aspects, they're super important. And so, you know, the master's is one of the things that helps, you know, really introduce you to this side of the life sciences industry and apply context to your background, biological sciences knowledge.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I actually remember this. It just, as you spoke, I just remembered once when I was a postdoc, just after my PhD, I was researching and doing in neurobiology, and I found this really interesting mechanism, and I thought, oh wow, you know, I found this cure for this particular disease, and I was really happy and proud that yeah, this is going to lead to a you know, to a cure. And in hindsight, you know, it never led to a cure, obviously, but in hindsight, actually, I really appreciate how naive most scientists actually are when they discover a particular mechanism or a particular target, and how they underestimate the complexities around it. You know, so finding the initial scientific breakthrough is actually only a small part of taking this further into an actual application that can be used in a clinic or in a commercial space. Okay, so Josephine, what are your ambitions for next year once this course is finished? What do you hope to get out of this?
I'm not exactly sure like which type of like workplace I want to, where I want to end up, but I'm definitely being super inspired by the course, and I'm able to narrow it down now. So I know that I want to find a workplace that's like young and ambitious and innovative. So probably like not necessarily starting my own startup, but joining one or working in VC as well.
So Philippos, we know from you that you're doing a second MSc at the moment, but where are you planning to go after that?
So after finishing my Master of Research, I'm thinking of joining a venture capital. So I've actually sent out some applications to venture capitals because I'm interested in learning how they're doing the investment procedures. So if any one of you is not familiar with the venture capitals, so they're basically allocating some investments into new startups, and they're actually looking for people to help them do the assessment of the investment. So how they're going to allocate the investment to new startups, what are those new startups aiming at. So what is the background science in those startups? So I'm kind of interested in going into this path, but I'm also interested in starting something on my own, but I think it's really early for me to say anything at this point.
Okay, thank you. So Alex, in your case, it's not so much where do you want to go, but where are you now?
Yeah, so I work for a company in Boston. I'm based on the East Coast in the US, and we specialize in connecting early stage life science firms with active investors and strategic partners in their specific healthcare sector. So when you're raising money as a startup, it's not only important to reach out to multiple different sources of capital, VCs, angels, these are the ones that immediately come to mind, but there are also corporate VCs, family offices, large pharma, endowments, hedge funds, private equity. You need to consider all these different sources of capital. And then you need to find investors who are interested in your healthcare sector, who are interested in your product stage of development, all of these important aspects. So I help early stage companies connect with these investors, and I help them build and analyze their executive materials. So if you go to a conference or you send an email to an investor, you're looking for funding, you need to have an executive summary, you need to have a slide deck, you need to have other resources which can really help sell your case to the investor and get them to take that first meeting with you, and then hopefully it goes well from there.
And again, I do think it's important that, people with a scientific background are involved with this, because ultimately you need to have that skill set to really be able to understand what's underneath the hood. Right? You need that you really understand whether this project has any legs or not. You need the expert knowledge for that. Josephine, at the moment you're in the middle. Have you found that have you been sufficiently challenged, and that you're stretched a bit, and is this course expanding your skill set and on horizon?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think some of the things that I was really intimidated by before I joined the course was like public speaking and critical thinking and thinking on the spot, like quick thinking, and then also this entrepreneurial mindset. And that's something that the course has definitely forced me to learn and be introduced to. So that's like, especially this with public speaking, we have a lot of these journal clubs and these cases where we have to present in front of our course, which I'm much more comfortable with now, which I think is super nice. And in terms of expanding my skill set and my horizon, so there is like this general focus on lots of different aspects of innovation in like life sciences and pharma and bioscience. So yeah, it's definitely working with that as well.
Philippos, I think, yeah, you haven't gone through the full year. So I think, I remember you guys being quite stressed at certain stages throughout the year with having quite a lot of work to deal with, right?
Yeah, it was actually stressful, but I think after Christmas, you start to understand what you like most or what you want to do after you finish this master's degree. And I think term 3's it is challenging, the whole process of writing your dissertation, but I think it kind of sets everything to a level that you kind of want to, where do you actually want to go after that? And the dissertation actually helped me to understand that I do have the entrepreneurial mindset. It's just that you have to identify something that you really enjoy working on. I myself worked on a mobile application, which I found very interesting, and it helped me realize that it is challenging, the process of identifying something that might be of use in the future, but the whole process is what I enjoyed the most. Identifying the feasibility of this idea, how it can be commercialized in the future. Is it actually useful for the market at for the moment? But yeah, I enjoyed the dissertation most of all the things.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I also enjoyed the dissertation the most. It was an extremely challenging piece of coursework. It's always really interesting to see how, you'll start off with a blank Word document and you'll begin writing your first notes, your first draft, and X number of days later, that's going to be a piece of work that you submit that's ultimately going to be an important determinant in what degree you get. So yeah, no, the course was challenging. It's not just, it's not like in an undergrad course where you can study really hard for a final exam and do well. It's consistent work all the way through. All 3 semesters are difficult, and especially having to give up a portion of your summer to work on your dissertation. But the more work you put into it, the more you get out of it. And yeah, from my personal experience, getting the award was extremely satisfying, knowing all that hard work paid off.
So you were one of the students who worked relatively independently, but we've had other students who also were integrated within companies, and they managed to develop internships out of that. And I know from a few, unfortunately not from all of them, but because we don't have tracks, don't track everybody, but from some of them, we've heard that they now managed to turn their internships into actual permanent positions, into real jobs, which is really great to hear, to have these really positive outcomes on their careers. Now, just as a last question before we switch to the Q&A session with the prospective students, I appreciate, you were the COVID generation, so what is it like, or what was it like for you to study at UCL and in London in particular? So Josephine, you might want to make a start there, because it's nowhere near as bad as during the worst lockdowns, which Philippos and Alex went through. But so do you like it at UCL? What's it like to study at UCL, and also, within Greater London?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that you mentioned before as well, like there's so many different external opportunities, like not just within the course, but all the societies as well, and the extracurricular courses as well. I think also, probably the most important thing is that you gain a really ambitious and innovative and broad network that really puts you into contact with so many people and so many different opportunities, especially if you don't know where you want to end up afterwards. And then London is also just a hub for so much innovation. So I think that's also it makes it super interesting to study in London, and living in London is amazing as well.
Philippos, I know you and
yeah, well, it was a bit unfortunate for us. We didn't have the chance, at least for me, because I wasn't in London last year. I actually did join some of the societies. So I was a member of the MedTech Society. So they had a huge amount of talks throughout the year that you could join, because I was interested in MedTech, and I'm still interested in MedTech. And it was, I think it was interesting for me to kind of be a member of a society that I wasn't really aware of before going to UCL. So I didn't even know what MedTech was. So from these talks, I kind of I also networked with a lot of people who are working in MedTech at the moment. So I found that really useful that UCL was providing that to me. But apart from that, because unfortunately I wasn't in London, I didn't have the chance to do anything else.
Yeah, the Zoom, the Zoom generation. Yeah, unfortunately. Alex.
Yeah, I was in London. The Zoom lectures were pretty peak, but there were a lot of students who were also in London. And so, when you study at UCL, you're living in the heart of, a vibrant city, one of the most vibrant cities in the world. And, you're going to meet a lot of interesting people on the course. So I definitely was able to meet some people who are living in London. And, we would go out to the pub on weekends. We would go bowling. We would go play snooker and pool while we still could out of the lockdown. Right? And yeah, studying at UCL, you'll get that experience. And with the lockdown restrictions being released now, I'm sure you'll find you'll have a much better social life and social opportunity than we did.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're going to switch to see whether there's any questions from the floor. I see something in the chat there. I'll start off with how many students usually enroll at this course each year. So the course is now in second year, so next year will be the third year. So the first year had, I think you guys, Philippos, you were around 43 or so.
Yeah.
43 students. This year, I think, Josephine, you're 42 or 43, very similar. So we're aiming somewhere between 40 and 50. That's the kind of the sweet spot, which we're aiming for again in the next year. Now, the second question there is, are there any examples of alumni who initiated their own startup after graduation? I think that's quite rare, but I think, Adam, can you maybe just quickly speak to that with regards to what Henry did?
Yeah, so we actually had 2 students come through the course last year that one of them had a company founded prior to actually starting the course and was actually going through fundraising on the side of doing the course. And then the other, and so was actually building the company right alongside what we're doing within the modules. The other student was looking towards the idea. They knew what they wanted to do and knew that they needed to gain more knowledge before they did that. And so they were launching their company as a social enterprise shortly after the conclusion of the course. They launched in August, September of last year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the other question is, I gather that most of them did an undergraduate degree in bioscience. Yes, it's kind of the entry criterion. Engineering degree holders eligible. I don't think so. So the entry criterion is a degree in bioscience by and large. So and we have entry criteria. It should be at least the equivalent of a upper second class degree, so a 2-1, as it's called here in the UK. And because we aim to have a high quality cohort of students. Okay, so I'm looking here at the chat. So okay, I'm switching over to the Q&A. What challenges do students face while landing in an internship with companies? Well, I'm going to make a couple of comments, and then maybe Adam can maybe also add to that, as he's also involved with the third term project. I would say one challenge is that if you're an intern, and sometimes they're even paid internships, you have to juggle writing a thesis at the same time as you're working as an intern as well, right? So you gain a lot of experience and knowledge from the internship, but you may not actually be able to use what you do day to day as an intern for your thesis. So that's maybe actually a bit of a challenge if you are in an internship environment. Some interns, what they write for their thesis is actually applicable and useful for the company. So that's kind of almost the optimal outcome, but that's not always the case. So you have to sometimes juggle the two needs of an internship and writing a thesis, which don't 100% overlap. Adams, do you have a comment on that?
So the first one, I see several questions coming through the chat. Please put your questions into the Q&A so that way we make sure that they're being answered. There's a feature that we can say that they've been answered, and we make sure we get to all of them rather than going back and forth. As far as the internships, there's actually 2 streams here. The first one is many companies actually do have published offers, and it's a matter of going through and looking at various job forums, watching LinkedIn, watching the companies in the space that you are interested in. And these companies are usually starting to advertise as early as November. So just after you start for a internship starting in the next summer. So, 6 to 9 months later. Those sorts of internships are going to usually be 6 months long. they may overlap with part of your term 2 work where you're actually doing class work. So it could be a little bit of a challenge, but as Marcus said, that's an amazing opportunity to get that sort of experience. Option number 2 is most companies will have, or most companies, if you say, hey, I'd like to come work for you, it's really a matter of selling yourself. So the thing is the companies may not be advertising a post, and so it's a matter of learning how to make the pitch of yourself, selling you Inc., where you start writing these companies in the space that you're interested in and say, hey, I'm doing this course, I have these sorts of skills, I think that I can do this for your company, I'm interested in doing an internship for 3 months to help support this activity, are we willing to talk more? But by no means is this a sure thing in, but it really helps you get learn those skills of how to market yourself, how to get in and to make connections that way, whether that's something that you're going to do that internship, or potentially just making a connection that may be useful for after you're done, or whatever you start your next enterprise when you're done with that. So there's 2 of those. So obviously the published ones are going to be highly competitive. And again, you still have to sell yourself, but it's a published job. Somebody's going to get hired. The second opportunity is you just sending out emails on LinkedIn, sending emails saying just a paragraph of, again, why do you think that you would benefit this company? Again, it's really, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to use these skills in your term 3 thesis, but it's really going to be, what can you do for the company? Why should they change their plans to hire you or to take you on, whether it be financially or their time, training you over those couple of months. So those are the main challenges, is the highly competitiveness, and then just learning how to sell yourself to get into those.
Okay, thank you. So just quickly to the question in the chat, have any students entered the investment banking sector relating to life science? As I said, I don't entirely know what all the students did from the last year. I'm aware of a couple who are in the investment banking sector. Whether they specifically relate to life science, actually, I don't have enough details on that. But yeah, there's some students have gone in that direction. One question in the Q&A. Do I just press, Rosie? Do I just press answer live there for the? I guess
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Recording. What's the difference between Bioscience Entrepreneurship versus biotech and pharma management? I would say there is some overlap, but I see the Bioscience Entrepreneurship is more science, more upstream of the actual application. So it's because that's kind of like where our strength is here. We are, at the institute, we're work with clinicians. The Institute of Ophthalmology is closely associated with Moorfields Eye Hospital. So we have very close ties with the clinical world, and I think that's where probably that's one of the distinguishing features, that we are have more of a focus on clinical applications and the pharmaceutical. So there's also a number of PIs here at the Institute and clinicians. They have fairly close ties to the pharmaceutical and the biotech industry, being, working with them in the form of advisors sitting on the advisory boards, or being in instances co-founders and so on. So I would say that's probably one of the main differences, that it's more kind of on the, if you think of a kind of a translational stream, there is from the basic science to the final commercial application, there is more focus on the actual science. So things like the genetics and how certain technologies work, that's much more of a focus on that. Okay, click that as done. Is UCL still rolling out offer letters for this program? Yes. With regards to the deadline, there is an intermediate deadline, 31st of March, which is kind of a UCL general deadline, but there are complexities around that. Doesn't apply to all programs. and the final deadline will be 31st of May. And as long as you get your application in before that, I would advise you try and get it in before the 31st of March, but there is this second window still. Your application will be considered, and it may take a while for it to be processed until you hear back, because it all goes through one central admissions office at the UCL, which always is quite stressed during these times. Okay. What do you do during your undergrad degree to allow you to get accepted into this master? So, as I said, so the entry criteria is a background in bioscience and a 2-1. We are, in some instances, we are willing to apply for a so-called suspension of regulation if you can make a strong case that you actually have a track record in some kind of entrepreneurial activities. So we've had students who were just below a 2-1, but some guy's already set up his own company or his own spin-out, and sold it already. So there are some students who actually, you know, we also think of the cohort, you know, what if students, we have quite a lot of group work, what can students bring? And if there's some students in there who already have some exposure to that sector, obviously, then they're close, we consider a suspension of regulation with regards to the entry criteria of having a 2-1. But we do require a science background. Click one. Would you say that the MSc program overlaps with a lot of pharmacological background? It's difficult to answer because I don't know to what degree your you know, how big your pharmacological background is. I would not say so, probably, because although there is School of Pharmacy, there is an optional module from the School of Pharmacy. You have a choice on what you can kind of tailor your diet in particular in the second term, very much so. Right? So the first term, there's no choices. There's compulsory. Well, there will be actually next year. There will be 3 compulsory and a choice between 2. And then in the second term, you have only 1 compulsory, and that one, business in bioscience, and the rest you can tailor your diet. So you probably can avoid the overlap there. Click to answer live, I'm sorry. What's the mix between students who have come straight from undergrad student versus with professional experience? I'd say the majority of them are coming. Yes, the majority of them come from straight undergrad, but maybe 10–15% or so, maybe, or 20%. I don't know. What do you think? I have had some professional experience beforehand, but I'd say the majority is straight from undergrad. Okay. How about someone with an undergrad degree in chemical engineering where they did courses in bioscience for 1.5 years? Well, I think, you know, just that you could just apply and we look into it. So I think that might be the easiest, because we do look at, you know, at these submissions individually and then make a decision whether it might work or not. Sorry, I missed that. So yeah, just send us your apply, and then we can assess that directly. I can't tell you right now. What kind of work experience are you looking for to enter this program? If you have a background in bioscience, you don't need work experience if you have a 2-1. But if you just narrowly miss it, and you can, you know, some students say, oh, I always want to go into Bioscience Entrepreneurship, but they don't make the mark. And say, well, I'm sorry, you don't make the entry criteria. But if they can somehow demonstrate that they have a track record, and it can be anything, but ideally beyond of what's just the normal diet of your undergrad program, then we may suspend regulations.
Marcus, I'd like to add something here as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So, I had 1 summer's worth of work experience working in the NHS when I applied to the master's program. But for me, and this really should be, something that all of you think about when applying to the program, is it's not as much work experience, because as Marcus mentioned, if you have an undergrad degree in biology and you've done well, that's a really important criteria. It's your desire to learn about entrepreneurship, but then also actually actively partake in the things that entrepreneurs do. So when you're applying to the program and when you think about the thesis, for example, the dissertation in the final term, you have to come up with an idea, or you have to go to do an internship. But, from my perspective, I literally thought of an idea, which was a novel type of therapy for type 1 diabetes. And then I took that from just being an idea to how it could actually be implemented and whether or not it would be sensible to move forward. But if you don't have that sort of desire to generate these ideas, if you don't have that desire to really engage with an entrepreneurial mindset, then you'll kind of struggle with the course. You really need to, when you're applying, think to yourself, do I have the ability to at least think of ideas? But then do I have the ability to act on them, to evaluate them, to potentially implement them? Those are the sort of things which are more important, I would say, than having, 10 years of work experience. Because as Marcus mentioned, you need an undergrad degree in biology. That's the most important sort of academic criteria. But then your mindset, can you be an entrepreneur? Can you implement ideas? Can you think of ideas, to begin with? Philippos, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, actually, Alex, for pointing that out. I think obviously this is a difficult one to actually assess on entry. What is your mindset as you come in, right? And but I just want to add that you need to be driven really to be active in that sector, and whether that is, in the form of being a builder, but also possibly being an analyst, a facilitator, where you're in a position where you analyze potential projects to see whether they're viable or not, and whether they should be funded or not. So in a VC environment. So, but you need to be driven. There's no doubt about that, because it is a competitive world out there. And just having a tick box on your CV of having just another MSc, that is not really, I think, what people are looking for these days. They look for also the drive in people and the mindset. Okay, I think we have answered all the questions. Rosie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are.
There's one that's just come in, I think.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let me have a look. What is the ratio of international students applying for the course and to the office? It's about roughly a third or so is international, I think, so far, roughly. And with regards to the, I don't know exactly this year, but they'll be somewhere between a third and maybe half, so somewhere in between there. That there's slightly more home students than international students, but it's not that far off. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer. I didn't press the button. What would be the method of applying with 2-1 biochemical? So the method would be just to apply and just put it in your application. You have to write the kind of application letter, right? It's a kind of a statement, and you just you make that statement and explain it. And we look at all of those and then let you know whether we think you would benefit from the course. Ultimately, the aim is, for you to benefit from the course, and at the same time also for you to like the course, so that you're not completely out of your comfort zone. Adam, do you have anything to add there?
No, that sounded pretty comprehensive.
Okay. Then how many places are there per applicant? Well, that's difficult to say. It comes down to, how many applicants apply. So last year we had quite a few more the applicants than the actually final students on the course. But so far, let's put it like this. So far, we have not run out of places yet, and we will not close the course at this stage, because we are not because people have applied yet, but not all of the offers have been processed yet, and so on, and so the process is still ongoing. So these kind of decisions, they will come much later in the year, where we can make a decision whether the course is full or not. But at the moment, there is still places open. Okay, so if you have a quick look at the chat, there is Rosie pointed out there is international excellence scholarships, which you may apply for. That these are competitive. You may not necessarily get them, but you can apply for them for £5,000. And there is also more information which you can get on the link Rosie put in the chat. Okay, so I think this is your last chance to ask any questions. And I think as we're coming up to 1 o'clock, I just want to thank everyone for joining us in today's session. And I hope that some of you feel sufficiently inspired to put in an application. And I also want to thank Philippos, Alex, and Josephine taking the time. And wish you all the best, Philippos and Alex and Josephine. Yeah, I'll see you around. And thank you all for joining. And I hope you have a nice afternoon, a nice Friday afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.